Well, welcome back to this new live stream. I'm Ilalamin, and here's the place where actually we're exploring the AI economy. What's coming next after internet-based economy? It's the AI-based economy. And as you know me, I really don't like to be to focus on the hype, on the delusional excitement. We're going to look at it from a very practical perspective. You know, I like to be practical. I like to see what's coming and how it's going to play out in reality, in practicality. So no fear-based stories here, nothing delusional, obviously. We're going to look at practical things and how, internet will going to evolve into AI-based economy and what it will look like and how could we adapt to it. So, but at first, I think we need to understand, we need to have some clarity about what AI economy will look like. Because I see a lot of people, even though on the web, creating content about, and it's always the hype or the fear. But there's very very little of them that creates something that something that much more related to reality and how things evolve naturally within our systems, within our civilization, and how technology actually evolves in the society with it, which kind of very different from what some people are trying to sell you. So that's why one of the reasons why here I'm taking some of my time to, instead of consulting big corporations and working for, like, really putting energy to only help a handful of people that I don't think need any any help on some level. I'm exposing basically what's really going to happen based on the experimentation and simulation that I've been doing for years at this point. So if we want to understand what the AI economy will look like, at first things first, we need to kind of understand where we're coming from. I mean, what the internet brought us, and before that, what was the era before internet. And so you see, I mean, if we're talking about pre-internet era, just let's just have an understanding, just have an idea what exactly we're talking about. Let's go to pre-internet, before 1995, let's say. Work, if we're talking about work depended on human memory, paper records, and local knowledge. I mean, it's all about how much you know, and whatever you have any trace on paper, whatever you have a library books. That's why a lot of people, when you see a lot of bookshelves, I mean, this means, I mean, that's kind of a sign that somebody knows something. But you see, information moved slowly at that time and was often incomplete and lost. And some of you are young, maybe too young to remember that, but everything was on paper. I mean, there was no internet whatsoever. And decisions were made with limited visibility and high uncertainty. Coordination between people relied on phone calls, meetings, and trust. Well, it still relies on trust, but whatever you call somebody, you send a letter, you send a fax, which is basically a very complicated way to send an email, or you need to have like face-to-face meetings, and something in between. So the cognitive load was high because humans had to remember and connect everything. Imagine everything was manual. I mean, you cannot just send an email, you cannot just send a text message, just everything needs to be face-to-face. Phone call, well, if you're lucky to have a phone call with somebody, sometimes not everywhere people were available, and it's kind of slow and difficult. There was a lot of friction, so to speak. Now then came the internet era. Let's say from 1995 to right now, 2020, 2026. Information became digital, searchable, and shareable. That's a Google, that's a platform. That's, all the email, text messages, whatever you are, like information is easily distributed to anyone you want it to distribute to. Systems connected people, documents, and workflow. That's all the platforms that connect all the documentation, the content that we see right now. Coordination of information became automated through software and platforms. That's the amazing thing about the internet, is that it actually automate the coordination of information. It's organized, well, let's put it this way. We could say that it's organized the world information in the way Google said it. But what's more importantly is that it's automate the coordination of information itself. And humans still had to interpret, prioritize, and decide. It's not because you automate the distribution of information that nobody has to interpret, prioritize, and decide and take decisions on it, right? So cognitive load stayed because judgment remained manual. Yes, judgment remained manual. The human interpretation of information is still manual. You just have easily accessible information. This means that you basically overloaded. I mean, you have more information per unit of time. I mean, you basically overloaded with information every single day, and basically that's the way it is. I mean, the cognitive load only increases, not decreases. It was very different, before internet, when you had highly limited information, a lot of friction. I mean, the only way to receive information through phone calls, paper, like some books, letters, or just talking with some people or whatever, or maybe you saw something on TV or whatever it is, but still you had very limited information. And yeah, you had to make some judgment, but with limited information, now you are overloaded with information. This means that cognitive load only increased. This by the way, this is why a lot of people feels exhausted, because there's a limit to what a human can take. If we look at the history, I mean, we haven't been overloaded with information. We had access to highly limited information, very often local information. But when you're bombarded and like you could stay like 24 hours, 7 days a week bombarded with information, new information that will come to you, whatever it's relevant or not to your specific existence, it's another question. But still, the cognitive load, we never been bombarded with so much information right now. So the key here is that the internet organized information, but left judgment, the interpretation to humans. And that's where it kind of breaks our back, on some level. We get overloaded with a lot of things. Now comes the AI era. And I know what some of you will think, well, AI era, it will replace all the jobs. We're gonna become a jobless society where we're gonna be in what we call it, in post-labor economy or something like that. Well, not really. That's not how our civilization evolved. That's just not gonna happen. I mean, each time a new technology comes, it comes with challenges, and somebody need to take care of those challenges. But it also comes with new capabilities. And that's the key. New capabilities means, well, our needs will get satisfied. This means our needs will evolve. Each time in history, it's happened the same way. We have new technology, it gives us new capabilities, because the technology allows us to do something that was too expensive, previously, or it just gives us just new things that we could do. So this means new capabilities. This means that our needs will evolve, and to satisfy those needs, we need people or new innovations or whatever it is. Because each time we have something new, we have the needs that we already have gonna be satisfied. We are always searching for new needs, for new satisfactions. That's the way we are as humans. We want more. We don't want less. Usually we want more. And that's why society evolves. So that's the basis of the, if you could call it, the operational system of our civilization. So when AI well, it's not when AI will come, it's already here, is that we haven't been able to learn how to use it effectively, and it's kind of limited. It has limited technological capability at this point, because it's it all depends on the computational power. And so we need a much more powerful, much faster, much more powerful processing unit that we call chips. But this is just a question of time, and eventually we're gonna switch from electronic microprocessors to photonic microprocessors, and that's gonna be a whole new step. And AI will become, obviously, will give us things that we haven't been able to have at this point. Listen to my last stream. I've been talking about what will going to happen when the computational power of AI will evolve. We will have more computational power, and obviously the capabilities will evolve, and we'll have amazing things that we can experience that we haven't been experienced yet. So it's gonna change the way we function on multiple levels, basically. But here, what I wanted to talk is that when AI will come, let's say from now to 2030s, is that AI integrates data across systems in real time. That's first things. Then AI structures options, risks, priorities, and timing. And then AI coordinates, we'll have a coordination of decisions that will becomes automated, not the decisions themselves. And I'm sure a lot of people making this mistakes, that AI will take decisions on our behalf, and that's not going to be the case. I mean, somebody will need to take responsibility, and it's not about making decisions on our behalf. It's about the coordination of decisions that will be automated. And once that coordination of decisions will be automated, then, the humans will choose. But AI will kind of removes chaos and basically the blind spots that we have right now when it comes to decision making. So the cognitive load, and this is the consequences that we'll have with AI, is that the cognitive load drops, because you see, judgment is supported and organized. Again, it's not about AI will make decisions on our behalf, and we'll not have to take a decision. No, we will have to make a lot of decisions. It's just those decisions, those judgments, they will be structured, organized, even on some level digested. I mean, based on a lot of data, and we'll see the world in a different way, basically. So the key here is that AI doesn't make decisions. It's basically, it organizes them on a very fundamental level. Now, you see, and I know what I just said, it's very, very abstract, I mean, I know some of you will say, what the hell are you talking about? I mean, let's take an example. I've been thinking about healthcare, because I think healthcare, It's very visual. We all understand what's healthcare. We all have been at healthcare, or at least we had some experiences. So it's very visual. It's very easy to understand what's really going on, and how healthcare will change with AI. So I'll just put myself aside here. There we go. So let's imagine, let's go back to the pre-internet era. The pre-internet. Let's go back to those beautiful 1980s. Those 1980s, where I know. Some of you will say, in the 1980s we had computers. Yeah, but we had yes, and we had internet, but it was so unpractical. Commercial internet just arrived in the 1990s. But let's go to a hospital from the 1980s. So let's say we have a patient. So a patient arrives at a hospital in the 1980s with, let's say, chest pain. Okay, the doctor asks questions, flips through paper files, and relies on memory. Lab results take hours. Obviously, imaging is delayed. If the patient was treated elsewhere, the information is, well, inaccessible. It's what they have, basically. Nurses write notes by hand. Specialists are called by phone. Everyone does their best, but decisions are made with partial information. Now, mistakes don't come from incompetence. They come from fragmentation in this case, because they just don't have information. The only information they have is what the doctor has in his memory, in his head, based on his or her experience. And the nurses is the same thing, and what they have within that hospital on paper, and that's it. So what this era looks like is that decisions are isolated, to individuals, heavy reliance on experience and intuition, high stress, high uncertainty. So this is the era that basically characterized the pre-internet that we had to deal with. Now let's go to our internet era within healthcare. Let's take the same patient that will arrive today with a chest pain. Medical records are digital today. Lab results appear on screens. Guidelines are online. Imaging is accessible across departments. And that's the key. But the doctor must still read everything, remember protocols, weight the risk assessment, obviously, coordinate with nurses, labs, specialists, and do the whole administration thing. Okay. The internet, you see, delivers information, but the human brain still has to assemble meaning. It has to make some judgment. It has to make some decisions. So basically, in this case, this is what we see: burnout increases, cognitive overload increases, not because doctors know less. Actually, it's the contrary, but because they see more. There's more information coming on them. What this internet era is all about, it's about information connected, judgment still manual, and cognitive load pushes onto humans that have limited capacity. We have limited capacity when it comes to interpretation of information and making judgment and making decisions. So let's transport ourselves to somewhere, let's say 2035. Okay. And I know it's gonna be a little bit speculative, but just stay with me. We take the same patient with the chest pain. The patient arrives in 2035 to a hospital, futuristic hospital. An AI system has already first integrated the patient's history, hold the medical history, analyze symptoms and vitals, compare thousands of similar cases, structure possible diagnosis and treatments. So the doctor doesn't get an answer. That's the key. It doesn't get an answer. They get a decision space. What the decision space is all about. It's about options, risks, probabilities of something of some disease or whatever will happen with the patient, timing implications, how much if let's say if the patient has a disease, how much time left, what will be the repercussions, all that extrapolations of what's going to happen in the future. And the AI coordinates lab priorities, specialist involvement, scheduling, follow-up actions, all that admin stuff that doesn't have to be carried manually. So the doctor chooses. The human remains responsible here, but chaos is removed, you see. And a lot of what we call overhead, basically the administrative task, all those tasks that are kind of around what's really critical are going to be removed. So this era look like, you see, decisions structured, not replaced. Teams are aligned and synchronized, and cognitive load dramatically reduced, because the doctor just have to take his cognitive abilities and focus on the decision making, on what's really vital, what's really important, and not having to take care about everything else actually, that is nothing to do with what's really critical, what's really essential. So if we look at what that era will all be about, it will be about if we're taking just about that healthcare didn't change because doctor will change. I mean, doctor will change based on the technology that they will be using, but it changed because coordination changed. First of information, then decisions. You see, it's all about automating certain type of tasks, so to speak, but mostly automating the coordination of decisions. And that will be true for any industry, any sector, not only healthcare. I just showed you healthcare because I think healthcare is kind of this easy example to understand, because it's kind of easy to catch, but it's going to be true for any industry, for any sector. And I think that's the key thing to AI by itself, is that it's going to change the way we make decisions, the way we interpret reality, and the way we make judgments. It's already changed us in terms of just having access to information and increase the speed of information itself with the internet. Because at this point we have access in the way we haven't been able to have before. We have access to information. There's no lack of information. We just have an overload of information. In that overload of information, it's very difficult to make any decisions. I mean, you almost have to isolate yourself and be highly practical and focused on what you're doing, which becomes more and more difficult. So what I see, the AI is kind of the antidote for that, and it's gonna bring us to a place where basically we'll be able to make a much better decisions, basically on multiple levels. And I think that's what is really amazing about AI itself. And I see many industries that will change because that technology will apply to many sectors, to all the industries. I mean, and it's gonna change the way we work. It's not gonna eliminate jobs. It's gonna create actually more jobs that we ever think, because I think we'll have more needs that we have today, because we'll be able to do things that we haven't been able to do before. Just let's take the healthcare. Right now, when it comes to healthcare, if something is not right, if you have a disease, if you have a health issue, you go to a clinic, to a hospital. So the whole medical industry and the healthcare sector by itself, is made to be reactive, not proactive. Some people that have a lot of resources and money could afford themselves to have um, preventive healthcare, you know, um, to have access to what's called preventive healthcare by itself. Now, with AI, those the whole industry, I mean, even healthcare, will switch, not totally, but we'll see a switch into this preventive type of healthcare. It's not that preventive healthcare do not exist; it exists. It's just that most of us don't have access to it because it's very expensive. Um, but what AI does is that it pushes us actually to make that preventive healthcare, where actually AI could assess your state of health and give us the ability to make, you know, not only us but the system itself, to make preventive action, to take preventive actions. And I think that the preventive healthcare will become even much bigger than the healthcare on the medical sector that we have today, and that will be highly exciting. But it will apply to any industries, and actually we'll see new industries, new sectors that will be created just on the basis that AI could automate decisions and organize judgment. Just by itself, I see just many industries and sectors that will be created, and this is something that we'll see over the next live stream that I will do. I'll try to do them every single day. Obviously, it takes a lot of time of mine to do this live stream. I hope you appreciate what I'm doing, but you see, we need to have at this point. I don't think we need to focus on hype, because you see a lot of people that hype AI, that AI could do a bunch of things and replace everyone. Um, they're trying to sell something. They're obviously trying to sell something, and we see the backfire of it. I mean, people get fired because they think, some companies decided to replace them with AI, and now they see that AI has some limitations. Now, AI has tremendous capabilities. It's just that the adoption of new technology, whatever the technology is, it takes time. It takes time. I mean, we're talking about technological limitations, but we also talk about just this ability to learn how to use new technology. Those things takes years, not months, years. Sometimes even decades in some cases. So I think it's important to understand what we're dealing when it comes to AI, because we need to have some clarity about what AI really gives us and what it doesn't. Because even today, I see a lot of companies, a lot of articles saying that, well, AI doesn't increase productivity. Of course, it will not increase productivity at this point. Go back to the 1990s when we had the start of commercial internet. Did the commercial internet, the .com, in the 1990s, did it increased productivity. I mean, you could find a bunch of articles where a bunch of companies will say the same. We're saying the same thing, that it didn't increase productivity. Why? Well, first things first, internet was slow, and second, people didn't know how to use it. You know, so we have the same thing with AI. First of all, AI is run on quite not so powerful microchips yet, because we need to see the increase of the computational power to see, AI gives us more and more capabilities that we could use. That's the first thing. And the second, that most of us, if not all of us, on some point, don't really know how to use it. And I know some people will say, yeah, well, I know how to use it. I ask questions to ChatGPT or Gemini. Well, no, I mean, no, it's it's supposed to be much more than that. It's supposed to be used as a co-pilot. It's supposed to be used as a direct assistant to whatever you're doing. Be always in the background of whatever you're doing, which is not the case at this point, because we have some limitation when it comes to AI. It's not always on. It has limitation. You have to prompt. You have to send a bunch of instructions to it, and it doesn't remember what you already sent it in a previous chats, which is called context. Context awareness. It doesn't have it. Well, we're at the beginning of some of them have some of it, but it's highly, highly, highly limited compared to what it will be in the coming years, especially in the 2030s. So on that note, on that element, if you have any comments, questions, don't hesitate to put them in the comment section. And from this on, I will try to be here almost every day, to make sure that we talk more and more about this AI economy, and hopefully we're going to explore what it is, and we're going to understand how it's working, how it's interrelated with other sectors, and how we can make better decisions, basically, from now and going on into the future, about what's really on, because we need to have some clarity. We cannot focus on hype and on this delusional excitement, and also we cannot always consume some frivolous stories about AI taking over the jobs, eliminating everything, because I see many companies eliminated a lot of jobs, and now they kind of regret. They regret because they see the limitations of what AI is and what AI isn't. So we're going to talk more and more about how AI changes many industries on this live stream. Hopefully you're gonna stay with me for all of the second days and all the days that will come forward. All right. So again, questions, comments, leave them in the comment section, and I will see you in the